Lucy Marsh walked through the crowded market of Valora 9 with her head down and her shoulders hunched. She looked like every other tired worker on the station. Her clothes were plain. Her hair was pulled back in a simple knot. She carried a data pad and moved with the slow shuffle of someone who had nowhere important to be. The aliens around her barely noticed she existed. To them, she was just another human. A small, soft creature from a small, soft world. The Torani merchants towered over her with their forearms and gleaming scales. The Voraki pushed past her without a second glance, their massive bodies making the ground shake with each step. Even the little Polari vendors looked at her with something close to pity. Humans were new to the galaxy. They had only joined the wider community 50 years ago. Most species saw them as children playing at being adults. Clever, yes. Emotional, certainly. But harmless, always harmless. Lucy liked it that way. She had lived on Valora 9 for 3 years now. She worked as a cargo inventory clerk in Dock 7. Her job was simple. Ships came in. She counted the boxes. She filed reports. She went home. She did this 5 days a week, every week, without fail. Her apartment was small and bare. She owned almost nothing. A bed, a chair, a small cooking unit. She had no pictures on the walls, no plants, no pets. She lived like someone who might need to leave at any moment. Because she might. Before Valora 9, before the quiet life and the boring job, Lucy Marsh had been someone else entirely. She had been a soldier in Earth's Apex Division. 12 years of hunting the worst things the galaxy had to offer. War criminals, slavers, monsters that wore the faces of civilized beings. She had tracked them across planets and through the dark spaces between stars. She had found them. She had killed them. And then Keth Prime happened. Lucy did not think about Keth Prime. She had taught herself not to. When the memories tried to surface, she pushed them down. She buried them under the weight of inventory reports and market crowds, and the simple rhythm of ordinary life. She had come to Valora 9 to disappear. To become no one. To silence the thing inside her that had been so very good at ending lives. Most days, it worked. Today was not most days. Lucy was walking through the market when she heard the screaming. It was a high, thin sound. The kind of sound a small creature makes when it knows that no one will help. She stopped. Her hands tightened on her datapad. The crowd parted, and she saw them. A Voraki male stood in the center of the walkway. He was huge, even for his species. 8 feet of scaled muscle and sharp teeth. His name was Dren. Lucy knew him. Everyone on the station knew him. He was a merchant who traded in things that polite society pretended did not exist. In his clawed hand, he held a Polari female. She was young, barely grown. Her fur was the soft gray of a kit, and her huge eyes were wet with tears. Dren held her by the arm and shook her like a toy. "You think you can steal from me?" Dren's voice was a low rumble. "You think I won't make an example of you?" The Polari's name was Savi. Lucy had seen her before in the market, selling small crafts to earn credits for food. She was alone on the station. No family. No protection. The perfect target for something like Dren. "Please," Savi whimpered. "I didn't take anything. I swear." Dren laughed. It was an ugly sound. "Lying makes it worse, little thing." Lucy watched. The crowd around her watched too. No one moved. No one spoke. Dren was too powerful. Too connected. The station security wouldn't touch him. He had diplomatic immunity from the Voraki Dominion. He could do whatever he wanted to whoever he wanted. Lucy's hands began to shake. Inside her skull, something stirred. Something old and patient and very, very hungry. It looked at Dren with cold calculation. It noted the way he stood, the angle of his arm, the exposed joint where his neck met his shoulder. It counted the seconds it would take to cross the distance between them. It measured the force needed to collapse his windpipe. The hunter was awake. Lucy closed her eyes. She breathed slowly. In. Out. In. Out. She was not that person anymore. She had left that person behind on Keth Prime, in a room full of bodies and blood. She had sworn never to be that person again. When she opened her eyes, Dren was dragging Savi away. The crowd was already forgetting. Life on the station moved on. Nothing had happened. Nothing ever happened. Lucy walked to her apartment. She made dinner. She ate without tasting anything. She lay in her bed and stared at the ceiling. That night, the rumors started. Savi was gone. She had vanished from the station. Some said Dren had taken her. Some said she had run away. Some said she was already dead. Station security shrugged and filed a report that no one would ever read. Lucy lay in the dark and listened to the silence. The hunter inside her was not silent. It whispered to her in a voice that sounded exactly like her own. It said, "You saw where he took her. You know the route. You mapped every shadow in this station 3 years ago because you couldn't stop yourself. Because you will never stop being what you are." Lucy pressed her palms against her eyes. It said, "She's in Sector 7, the old cargo bay that nobody uses. She's alive, for now, but not for long." Lucy rolled over and pulled the thin blanket over her head. It said, "You could save her. You're the only one who can. And we both know you want to. We both know how much you've missed this." "No," Lucy whispered into the darkness. "It's not my fight. I'm done. I'm out." The hunter didn't argue. It didn't need to. It simply settled back into its corner of her mind and waited. It was very good at waiting. It had been waiting for 3 years. Somewhere on the station, a young Polari female cried in the dark, and no one came to help her. Lucy Marsh lay in her bed and pretended she couldn't hear, but her hands wouldn't stop shaking. 3 more beings disappeared in the week after Savi. A Morvani dockworker named Hess vanished on his way home from a late shift. A young human woman named Kate went missing from the residential quarter. A Polari male who sold food in the lower markets simply stopped showing up one morning. The station talked about it in whispers. Everyone knew who was responsible. Everyone knew that nothing would be done. Dren had friends in powerful places. His credits bought silence, and his connections bought protection. He was untouchable. Lucy tried to ignore it. She went to work. She counted cargo. She filed her reports. She smiled at her co-worker Telek, a gentle Morvani with soft blue skin and large, worried eyes. She pretended everything was fine, but the cracks were starting to show. "You seem different lately," Telek said one morning. They were sitting in the small break room, drinking the bitter tea that the station provided for free. "Tense. Like you're waiting for something," Lucy shrugged. "Bad sleep. That's all." Telek looked at her with his big liquid eyes. The Morvani were peaceful by nature. They didn't understand violence. They didn't understand hunters. "You know you can talk to me," he said softly. "If something is wrong." Lucy looked at her friend. She thought about telling him. About Keth Prime. About the 12 years before that. About the thing that lived inside her skull and counted kill points on every being she met. "I'm fine," she said. "Really." That night, she dreamed of Keth Prime again. She dreamed of the mission that went wrong, of the ambush that killed her squad one by one, of the 3 days she spent alone in the dark, hunting the things that had hunted her. She dreamed of blood on her hands and the sound of screaming that might have been hers. She woke up with her heart pounding and her sheets soaked with sweat. The hunter was awake too. It had been awake since the day she saw Dren with Savi. It wouldn't go back to sleep. Lucy started doing things she couldn't explain. She began walking different routes through the station. Routes that took her past Sector 7. Past the old cargo bay where the lights didn't work and the cameras had been disabled. She told herself she was just curious. She told herself it meant nothing. But she was mapping. Her mind was drawing lines and angles and escape routes without her permission. She counted guards. She timed patrols. She noted which doors had locks and which ones didn't. The hunter was working, even if Lucy wouldn't admit it. One evening, a man approached her in the corridor outside her apartment. He was human. Young. Maybe 25. His face was pale and his eyes were red from crying. "You're Lucy Marsh," he said. "The cargo clerk from Dock 7. Lucy kept her expression blank. Who's asking? My name is Ben Holloway, my sister Kate. His voice cracked. She went missing last week. Security won't help. They say there's nothing they can do. Lucy felt her stomach tighten. I'm sorry, but I don't know how I can help you. Ben stepped closer. People talk. They say you notice things. They say you know every shadow on this station. He grabbed her arm. Please, she's all I have left. Lucy looked down at his hand on her arm. The hunter measured the pressure, calculated how easy it would be to break his grip, break his wrist, put him on the ground before he could blink. She pushed those thoughts away. I'm just a clerk, she said quietly. I file reports. That's all I do. She pulled her arm free and walked into her apartment. She closed the door behind her and leaned against it, breathing hard. Ben's voice came through the metal. Please, Miss Marsh. Please. She didn't answer. Eventually, his footsteps faded away. Lucy sat in her dark apartment for a long time. Then she got up and went to work. Not her regular work. Different work. The kind of work she had sworn she would never do again. It took her 2 days to confirm what she already knew. Dren was running a fighting ring. An illegal arena hidden in the depths of Sector 7. Beings were kidnapped and forced to fight for the entertainment of wealthy spectators. Most of them died. The ones who won got to fight again until they lost. Savi was there. Kate Holloway was there. The others too. Lucy found the schedule for the next fight. Savi was listed. Her opponent was a Gorath battle drone. A machine built for killing. Savi would last maybe 30 seconds. The fight was tomorrow night. Lucy went back to her apartment. She stood in the middle of the small room and looked at the wall. There was a panel there that looked like every other panel. She had installed it herself 3 years ago, when she first arrived on the station. Just in case. Always just in case. She pressed the hidden release, and the panel slid open. Inside was a case. Black metal, sealed with a genetic lock that only responded to her touch. Lucy opened it. Her combat suit lay folded inside. Lightweight armor that could stop a pulse round. Her knives sat in their sheaths, edges still sharp enough to cut shadow. Her pulse pistol waited in its holster, fully charged, exactly as she had left it. She hadn't touched these things in 3 years. She had promised herself she never would again. Lucy picked up one of the knives. It felt perfect in her hand. It felt like an extension of her body. It felt like coming home. One time, she whispered to the empty room. Just this once, just to save them. The hunter didn't respond with words. It didn't need to. She could feel it smiling in the dark corners of her mind. It had known all along that this moment would come. It had been waiting. Lucy began to suit up. In the mirror, she watched herself transform. The tired clerk disappeared. The hunched shoulders straightened. The soft expression hardened into something cold and sharp and dangerous. She looked at her reflection and didn't recognize herself. No. That wasn't true. She recognized herself perfectly. This was who she had always been. The clerk was the mask. This was the truth underneath. Lucy Marsh finished checking her weapons and walked out into the night. The station slept. The aliens dreamed their alien dreams. And somewhere in Sector 7, a young Polari girl waited to die. Not tonight, Lucy thought. Not while I'm still breathing. The hunter agreed. For the first time in 3 years, they were in perfect harmony. Lucy moved through the maintenance corridors like smoke. 3 years of being invisible had taught her every forgotten passage, every broken camera, every shadow where the light never reached. She had mapped this station without meaning to. The hunter never stopped working, even when she tried to pretend it wasn't there. The entrance to Sector 7 was guarded. 2 Voraki stood at the main door, their scales gleaming under the dim lights. They were armed with pulse rifles and looked bored. They had done this 100 times. Nothing ever went wrong. Lucy didn't use the main door. She dropped through an air vent and landed in the corridor behind the guards without making a sound. They never knew she was there. She moved past them like a ghost and disappeared into the darkness ahead. The first real guard she encountered was deeper inside. A Voraki male, bigger than the ones at the door. He stood at a junction point, watching the corridors with half-closed eyes. He thought he was safe. He thought nothing could touch him here. Lucy hit him before he saw her. She struck the nerve cluster at the base of his skull, then drove her knee into the weak point of his armor at the hip. He went down hard, gasping. Trying to scream, she silenced him with a precise blow to the throat. It took 4 seconds. She didn't kill him. She could have, easily. But she was trying to hold back, trying to be something less than what she really was. She left him unconscious and bleeding and moved on. What she didn't know was that someone had followed her. Ben Holloway had been watching her apartment. When she left in the night dressed in black armor, he followed. He didn't know what he expected to find. He just needed to know if she could help his sister. He followed her into the maintenance tunnels. He followed her into Sector 7. He crouched in the shadows and watched her take down the first guard like it was nothing. Ben had seen violence before. He had grown up on a rough colony world. He thought he understood what humans were capable of. He was wrong. Lucy moved through the corridors and dismantled everything in her path. 2 more guards fell. Then 3 more. She didn't fight like a person. She fought like a machine designed for a single purpose. Every movement was perfect. Every strike landed exactly where it needed to. Ben watched her break a Voraki's arm in 2 places and wondered what the hell she really was. Lucy knew he was following. She had known since the maintenance tunnels. His breathing was too loud and his footsteps were clumsy. But she let him follow. She was too focused on what lay ahead to deal with him now. The fighting pit was exactly where she expected it to be. A converted cargo bay, rebuilt into an arena. Seats rose around a central pit where the ground was stained dark with old blood. Dozens of aliens sat in those seats, watching as 2 beings fought below. Lucy watched from the shadows. The fight ended quickly. The loser didn't get up. Dren sat in a raised platform at the best viewing spot. He was laughing at something, one of his associates said. He looked comfortable. He looked like a king in his castle. Lucy looked at the holding cages along the wall. She saw Savi huddled in one of them, her small body shaking with fear. She saw Kate Holloway in another, her face bruised and her eyes empty. She saw the others too, all the missing, all the ones nobody had bothered to save. The plan was simple: free the prisoners, slip away, stay invisible, let everyone wonder what happened. Then Lucy saw the schedule board. Savi's name was next. Her opponent was the Gorath battle drone. The fight was in 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Lucy looked at the terrified Polari girl in the cage. She looked at Dren, laughing on his throne. She felt something cold settle into her chest. The plan changed. Lucy Marsh walked out of the shadows and into the arena like she owned it. The crowd fell silent. Heads turned. 100 alien eyes stared at the small human woman standing in the middle of the fighting pit. Dren stopped laughing. He leaned forward, his yellow eyes narrowing. "What is this? Who let a human in here?" Lucy didn't answer. She just stood there, waiting. 4 guards moved toward her from different directions. Big Voraki males, armed and armored. They moved with the confidence of predators approaching prey. The first one reached for her. Lucy broke his arm at the elbow, took his weapon, and used it to crack the second guard's skull. The third swung at her with a shock baton. She stepped inside his reach, drove her palm into his throat, and dropped him gasping to the ground. The fourth tried to run. She caught him in 3 steps and put him down with a kick that shattered something important in his knee. It took 8 seconds. The crowd erupted into chaos. Aliens screamed and scrambled for exits. Guards poured into the arena from every entrance. Lucy didn't run. She moved forward, toward the cages, toward the prisoners. Anyone who got in her way went down. She wasn't holding back anymore. The hunter was in full control now, and it was beautiful. Dren's associates tried to stop her. Professional killers, all of them. They had ended dozens of lives between them. Lucy ended them in under a minute. Dren finally moved. He pulled a plasma blade from his belt. The weapon hummed with deadly energy. It had killed more beings than anyone could count. "Little human," Dren growled, stepping into the pit. Do you know who I am? Do you know what I've done? Lucy looked at him with eyes that held nothing human. You're a predator who preys on the weak. You think you're the most dangerous thing in the room? She raised her knife. You're wrong. Dren charged. He was fast for his size. The plasma blade cut through the air in a killing arc. Lucy wasn't there. She had moved before he started. She was beside him. Then behind him. Then inside his guard. Her knife found the gaps in his armor. Once. Twice. 3 times. Dren roared and swung wildly. Lucy took the blade from his hand in 6 precise moves. She kicked his knee out. She put him on the ground. She pressed her boot against his throat. I could kill you, she said quietly. It would be easy. It would be fair. Dren stared up at her with fear in his eyes. For the first time in his life, he understood what it meant to be prey. But I won't, Lucy continued. You're going to live. You're going to remember this. Every time you think about hurting someone weak, you're going to remember that a human woman put you in the dirt. She stepped back and turned away from him. Ben Holloway stood at the edge of the arena, his face white with shock. He had watched everything. He had seen this quiet clerk transform into something from a nightmare. Lucy walked past him to the cages. She broke the locks, one by one. Savi stumbled out and collapsed against her, sobbing. Kate Holloway ran to her brother. The others followed, blinking in confusion and hope. What are you? Ben whispered when Lucy walked past him. She stopped. Her voice was flat and empty when she answered. I'm what Earth makes when it needs something killed. I'm what happens when you push humans too far. She looked back at the blood and broken bodies scattered across the arena. And I'm the reason the galaxy should be afraid. She walked into the darkness without another word. Behind her, Savi clung to Ben's arm and watched Lucy disappear. She saved us, the little Pilari whispered. The monster saved us. Ben didn't answer. He didn't know what to say. News of the attack spread across Valora 9 like fire. The stories grew with each telling. A demon had attacked Dren's operation. A monster had risen from the dark and destroyed everything. Some said it was a military strike from a rival faction. Some said it was a creature from the deep spaces between stars. Some said it was a ghost. Only a few people knew the truth. A small human woman had walked into an arena full of killers and walked out over their broken bodies. Commander Vex of Station Security sat in his office and watched the footage for the 10th time. He was a Torani, tall and thin with silver scales and cold calculating eyes. He had served in 3 wars. He had seen things that would break most beings. He had never seen anything like this. The woman in the footage was small, unremarkable. She looked like every other human on the station, but she moved like nothing he had ever encountered. She flowed through the guards, like water through rock. She hit them in places they didn't know they had. She anticipated their moves before they made them. 8 armed Voriki, 12 seconds. Every single one down. Commander Vex paused the footage on her face. Her expression was empty. No anger, no fear, no excitement. Just focus. Pure and absolute. He pulled up the station records and found her file. Lucy Marsh, Cargo Inventory Clerk, Dock 7, 3 years of service. No incidents, no complaints, nothing unusual at all. Except that wasn't true, was it? Vex ran a deeper search. He hit walls immediately. Her records before Valora 9 were sealed, locked behind security clearances so high that even he couldn't access them. Earth military. Classified. He leaned back in his chair and felt something he hadn't felt in years. Fear. The Voraki Dominion responded quickly. They were furious. Dren was connected to powerful families in their empire. His humiliation was their humiliation. They demanded justice. They demanded the human terrorist be captured and executed. The diplomatic channels burned with angry messages. Station administration panicked. They needed someone to fix this before it became a war. Earth sent Chris Delaney. Delaney arrived on a fast shuttle 3 days after the incident. He was middle-aged, gray at the temples, with the tired eyes of someone who had spent too many years solving problems that shouldn't exist. He worked for Earth's diplomatic corps. Officially. Unofficially. He cleaned up messes. He watched the footage once. Then he pulled up Lucy Marsh's real file. Apex Division. 12 years. 47 confirmed operations. Specialization. High-value target elimination. Delaney closed the file and rubbed his eyes. He knew what Apex soldiers were capable of. He had worked with them before. They were Earth's answer to a galaxy full of predators. Take humans and strip away everything soft. Train them until they became weapons. Point them at problems and let them work. They didn't retire. They didn't settle down and become clerks. They disappeared. They died. Or they ran so far that no one could find them. Until now, Lucy tried to return to normal life. She went to work the day after the attack. She sat at her desk and filed reports. She drank tea with Telek and pretended nothing had changed. But everything had changed. She could feel eyes on her wherever she went. The aliens who had ignored her for 3 years now watched her from a distance. They whispered when she passed. They stepped aside when she walked through the corridors. They knew. Everyone knew. The quiet clerk had teeth. And now the whole station had seen them. Telek looked at her differently too. His big, soft eyes held something new. Not fear exactly, but caution. Like he was seeing her clearly for the first time. You saved those people, he said quietly one morning. The missing ones. That was you. Lucy didn't answer. Why didn't you tell me? Telek asked. Why did you pretend to be something you're not? And, Lucy looked at her friend. She wanted to explain. She wanted to tell him about Keth Prime and the blood on her hands, and the thing that lived inside her head. She wanted him to understand that she had tried so hard to be normal. She had tried so hard to bury the hunter and become someone gentle and safe. But the hunter was awake now. It had been awake since the night in the arena. It wouldn't go back to sleep. I didn't pretend, she said finally. I hoped. There's a difference. That night, Lucy sat alone in her apartment and stared at the wall. The combat suit hung in her closet. The weapons sat in their case. She had cleaned them and put them away, just in case, always just in case. Someone knocked on her door. Lucy was on her feet with a knife in her hand before the sound finished. She approached the door slowly, checking angles, calculating distances. She opened it to find Chris Delaney standing in the corridor. Miss Marsh, he said calmly, we need to talk. Lucy let him in. She didn't put down the knife. Delaney looked around her small apartment. He took in the bare walls and empty spaces. He understood what he was seeing. A life designed for quick departure. A life without roots. I know who you are, he said. What you are. I read your file. Lucy said nothing. The Voraki are angry. They want your head. Literally. Delaney sat in her single chair without asking permission. Station administration is terrified. They're talking about handing you over to keep the peace. Let them try, Lucy said quietly. Delaney smiled without humor. That's exactly what I told them. I said if they tried to take you, there wouldn't be enough of them left to fill a cargo container. You came here to warn me? I came here to offer you a job. Delaney leaned forward. Come back to Apex Division. We need people like you. The galaxy is getting more dangerous every year. Earth needs its hunters. Lucy felt the words hit her like physical blows. Go back. Become a weapon again. Do the things she had sworn she would never do. The hunter stirred. It liked the idea. It missed the hunt. It missed the purpose. No, Lucy said. Delaney raised an eyebrow. No? No? I'm done being someone's weapon. I did my time. I paid my price. Lucy's voice was hard. I came here to be something else. Something better. And how's that working out for you? Lucy didn't answer. They both knew how it was working out. Before Delaney could respond, Lucy's datapad chirped. A message from an unknown source. She read it and felt her blood go cold. What is it? Delaney asked. The Voraki, Lucy said slowly. They're not waiting for diplomacy. They sent a retrieval team. 6 of their best hunters. They arrived on the station an hour ago. Delaney stood up fast. We need to get you out of here. I can arrange transport. Hide you somewhere. No. Delaney stared at her. No. They're professional killers. Elite military. They will find you and they will make you suffer. Lucy set down her data pad. She walked to her closet and pulled out her combat suit. She began putting it on with practiced efficiency. Let them come, she said. You can't be serious. There are 6 of them. Lucy looked at him with eyes that held no fear. Only patience. Only hunger. They think they're hunting prey, she said quietly. They have no idea what they've walked into. Delaney watched her finish suiting up. He watched her check her weapons with hands that didn't shake. He realized that he wasn't looking at a woman preparing for a fight. He was looking at a predator, preparing to feed. Good luck, he said finally. It was all he could think to say. Lucy smiled. It was a cold, sharp thing that didn't reach her eyes. I don't need luck. I just need them to keep thinking I'm prey. She walked out into the night. The hunt was about to begin. The 6 Voraki hunters spread across Valora 9 like a disease. They moved through the corridors with thermal scanners and genetic trackers, searching for one small human woman. They had names that translated to titles earned in blood. They had killed hundreds between them. They were the best the Voraki Dominion had to offer. They thought they were the predators. Lucy watched them from the shadows. She had been tracking them since they landed. She knew their patterns. She knew their equipment. She knew the way they communicated. And the signals they used. 3 years of being invisible had made her an expert at watching without being seen. The leader was called Krath. He was the biggest of the 6, covered in battle scars that he wore like medals. He gave orders with short, sharp gestures. He was confident. He had hunted dangerous prey across a dozen worlds. He had never hunted anything like Lucy Marsh. She started with the one they called Ven. He was young and eager, always pushing ahead of the group. He wanted to prove himself. He wanted to be the one who caught the human. Lucy let him find her. She appeared at the end of a corridor, just a glimpse in the darkness. Ven saw her and gave chase without calling for backup. He wanted the glory for himself. He followed her into the maintenance tunnels, into the dark places where the lights didn't work, into her territory. They found his body 3 hours later. His own grenade had exploded in his hand. His equipment was missing. There was a message carved into the wall beside him. 5 left. The remaining hunters regrouped. Krath was furious. He ordered them to stay together. No more splitting up. They would find the human and make her pay for what she had done. But Lucy didn't need them to split up. The second hunter vanished near airlock 7. One moment he was there. The next, his tracker went dark. They found his equipment floating in space. They never found his body. The third hunter was a female named Sarex. She was the tracker of the group, the one who read signs and followed trails. She was very good at her job. Lucy was better. Sarex walked into a maintenance shaft that should have been empty. She found a message waiting for her, written in her partner's blood. You should have stayed home. She tried to run. Lucy was waiting at the exit. When the other hunters found Sarex, she was still alive. Barely. She kept saying the same thing over and over. It's not human. It's not human. It's not human. 3 hunters remained. Krath and 2 brothers named Drak and Tan. They were scared now. The confidence was gone. They were starting to understand that something had gone very wrong with this mission. They stopped hunting. They started hiding. It didn't help. Lucy found Drak alone in a storage room. He had his weapon ready. He was watching the door. He was prepared for an attack. He wasn't prepared for Lucy to drop from the ceiling vent behind him. The fight was short. Drak was strong and fast. He had trained his whole life for combat. He landed one good hit, opening a cut on Lucy's arm. She broke both his legs and left him screaming in the dark. Tun heard his brother's screams. He ran toward the sound, which was exactly what Lucy wanted. She met him in the corridor. He swung at her with a plasma knife. She dodged and struck. He blocked and countered. They danced in the darkness, trading blows, testing each other. Ton was good. Really good. Better than his brother. Better than most of the hunters Lucy had faced in her career. It didn't matter. Lucy caught his arm on a downswing. She twisted. Something cracked. The knife fell. She finished him with 3 precise strikes to his nerve clusters. He dropped like a puppet with cut strings. One left. Krath waited in the station's reactor core. It was a large, open space, filled with machinery and humming with power. He had chosen it carefully. Good sight lines. No places to hide. Room to maneuver. He stood in the center with his weapons ready. His scales were raised in challenge display. He was done hiding. He was done being afraid. "Come out, human," he roared. "Face me like a warrior." Lucy stepped out of the shadows. She was bleeding from a dozen small cuts. Her armor was damaged. She looked tired, but her eyes were bright with something that might have been joy. "You killed my hunters," Krath growled. "My family. You'll die screaming for that." Lucy rolled her shoulders. "They came here to kill me. They found out what happens when you hunt something that hunts back." Krath charged. He was fast, incredibly fast for his size. His first strike would have taken Lucy's head off if it had landed. It didn't land. Lucy moved like liquid, flowing around his attacks, striking at the gaps in his guard. Krath was strong and skilled, but he had been trained to fight enemies who stood and traded blows. He didn't know how to fight someone who was never where he expected her to be. She cut him. Once. Twice. A dozen times. Small wounds. Nothing fatal. She was taking him apart, piece by piece. Krath roared with frustration and pain. He threw everything he had at her. He was stronger. He was bigger. He should have won, but Lucy wouldn't stop. She took hits that should have put her down. She kept moving. She kept cutting. She never slowed. She never hesitated. Humans evolved as persistence predators. They didn't need to be the fastest or the strongest. They just needed to not stop. They wore their prey down over hours and days. They followed and followed and followed until their target couldn't run anymore. Krath was learning this lesson the hard way. The fight ended when Lucy finally got inside his guard. She disabled his arms with 2 quick strikes. She swept his legs. She put him on his back with her knife at his throat. "Do it," Krath gasped. "Finish it." Lucy looked down at him. The hunter inside her wanted to. It would be easy. It would be right. He had come here to hurt her. He deserved death, but Lucy thought of Savi. She thought of Ben's sister Kate. She thought of all the people she had saved. She hadn't done that for revenge. She had done it because it was right. "No," she said. She pulled the knife back. "You're going to live. You're going to go home. And you're going to tell them what happened here." Krath stared at her with something like awe. "Why?" Lucy stood up. "Because I want them to know. I want everyone to know." She looked down at the broken hunter at her feet. "Humans aren't prey. We never were. And anyone who forgets that will end up exactly like you." She walked away. 3 days later, Commander Vex sat in his office and read the reports. All 6 Varaki hunters had been defeated. 1 dead. 4 in medical care. 1 being shipped back to the Dominion in disgrace. 1 human woman. 6 elite killers. No contest. Vex pulled up his database and started reading about Earth. About human history. About the wars they had fought against each other for thousands of years. About their persistence hunting ancestors who chased prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. They evolved to never stop. He murmured to himself. They just keep coming. Forever. He closed the file and looked out his window at the station. Somewhere out there, Lucy Marsh was probably filing cargo reports. Being normal. Being invisible. He shivered. Lucy went back to work. She sat at her desk and counted boxes. She drank tea with Telek. She smiled at her coworkers. But things were different now. The aliens who passed her in the corridors nodded to her with respect. Some of them with fear. Word had spread throughout the station. The quiet clerk was something else entirely. Something dangerous. Something to be treated carefully. Lucy didn't mind. She had stopped pretending. The mask was gone. She was what she was. One evening, a small figure approached her in the market. It was Savvy. The young Pelari looked healthier now. The terror was fading from her eyes. "Miss Marsh," Savvy said softly, "I wanted to thank you. For saving me. For saving all of us." Lucy knelt down, so she was at eye level with the little alien. "You don't need to thank me. You're a monster," Savvy said. "Everyone says so, but you saved us. How can you be a monster if you saved us?" Lucy thought about the question. She thought about Keth Prime and the blood on her hands. She thought about the hunter that lived inside her skull. Always watching, always waiting. "Maybe I am a monster," she said gently. "But monsters can choose what they hunt. I choose to hunt the things that hurt people like you." Savvy nodded slowly, processing this. Then she hugged Lucy quickly and ran off into the crowd. Lucy stood up and watched her go. She felt something warm in her chest. Something she had almost forgotten existed. She walked through the market. Just another face in the crowd. The hunter walked with her. Finally at peace. Not caged. Not buried. Just there. Ready if it was needed. Chris Delaney found her one last time before he left the station. "The offer still stands," he said. "Earth needs people like you." Lucy shook her head. "I'm not a weapon anymore. I'm something else now." "What?" She thought about it. "A guardian, maybe. Someone who watches. Someone who protects." Delaney nodded slowly. "The galaxy could use more of those." He left. Lucy went back to her life. Her quiet, boring, ordinary life. But she kept her weapons clean. She kept her skills sharp. She kept watching, because somewhere out there, in the vast darkness between stars, something would always need hunting, and Lucy Marsh would be ready.